I want to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it. Where in your life are you lowering yourself to match your comfort instead of rising to match and pass your ceiling? Because honestly, most entrepreneurs don't stop at their ceiling because of a lack of skill. They stop because of a lack of identity. You don't stop growing because you are incapable. You stop growing at some point because the version you believe yourself to be cannot go any higher. That invisible limit, that's your identity ceiling. And today, we're going to break it.
Welcome to Success Spectrum Podcast, where new entrepreneurs break free from limiting beliefs, build unshakable financial confidence, and step boldly into the life and business they were meant to create.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Success Spectrum Podcast, sponsored by Apex Affiliation. I'm your host, Kadeem McLean. I want to ask you a question today. Have you ever stopped yourself right before you hit your next level? See, there's an internal identity ceiling that you didn't know you set. What if I told you that your beliefs, your standards, your self-image, they all quietly determine your success, and that raising your identity is the key to breaking every single ceiling you keep running into? To help you do that today, I want to first define what is this thing I'm calling an identity ceiling? Well, it's a limit, the internal limit of what you believe you deserve, what you believe you can maintain, what you believe you can handle. Right? What you believe you are allowed to become and who you believe you're allowed to become. It's the highest level of success your identity feels safe with. That's what your identity ceiling is. And without knowing that, it's difficult to reframe it, to change it, to adjust it. So what is this identity ceiling? Well, I'm sure you believe a lot of times that, let's say as an example, your circle of friends, your circle of influence, they might all be making $70,000 a year. And you might be telling yourself subconsciously or consciously, who am I to make $150,000 a year or $250,000 a year? It doesn't work because I'm with these guys. I come from a certain situation. I don't come from wealth. No, I shouldn't be able to do that. So every single time you step towards it, you pull yourself back, consciously or subconsciously. Your subconscious pulls you back down because you say to yourself, I don't deserve this. And guess what? Identity always goes back and reverts to its comfort level, not its potential level, its comfort level. So I want to ask you, what version of yourself are you being loyal to? Are you being loyal to your past identity or your future identity? Because that determines where your life will go. If you want to stay stuck, yes, stay on that previous identity. If you want to go forward and you want to make a difference, you want to change, go after that future identity. That's the one you should be attached to and listening to and following. But it doesn't just happen by saying, okay, I'm going to do that. No, you got to work on it. You got to read certain books. You got to elevate yourself, get around certain people. And if you're not sure if you're hitting that identity ceiling, let's talk about it. Because one thing you can ask yourself is, where do I stop? Where did I stop? Because I told myself that I've already done enough. All right. And here are some signs to know that you've hit that identity ceiling. You make progress and then you disappear. You take your foot off the gas when results start showing up and you finally start winning. You get momentum, but you sabotage it with distraction or busyness. You settle for smaller opportunities than you know you're capable of acquiring. You avoid being seen or heard. Right? You don't want to be seen. You don't want to be heard. You just stay in your corner because that's not who I am. When really it is who you are supposed to be, but you're stuck on this old identity. You downplay some wins, you speed them up or move past them, right? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. You downplay it. Someone's trying to congratulate you and you say, okay, sure, thanks. Or it wasn't that great or whatever the case is. No, don't do that. You're downplaying your identity. You freeze when responsibility increases. And I want to tell you, this is not a motivation issue. This is an identity mismatch. I know previously years ago, I got a promotion, let's say. And I thought to myself, wait a second, I don't deserve this. I didn't do the work necessarily to get here because it was an unconventional way of getting the promotion. And I said, wait, I didn't really do the work to get here. I don't deserve to be here. And it showed, let's say, in the way that I approached it. It showed in the way that I was speaking. It showed in the way I was carrying myself. And everything kind of stopped in terms of that business because of where I was at mentally and my identity. I was at a different place than my identity, and I didn't allow my identity to catch up to it until I did. And once I did, things shifted, things changed, and opportunities started to come my way again, and I started to go forward with it. So for you, I want you to write down one area that you have stopped early and ask yourself why. Why did I stop early? And I can almost guarantee you it's because of this identity ceiling. One of the reasons why this identity ceiling forms is because of homeostasis. Our brain loves the familiarity. It loves the same. That's why we love our comfort zone, right? By default, our brain wants to go towards the things we know, the things that are familiar. I've been here before. Let's go there. I normally eat here for dinner. Let's go there for dinner. I don't want to try that new place because it's unfamiliar. Guess what? Success is unfamiliar because you got to do different things. You got to try something new. You got to step out and put yourself in positions that are where you're vulnerable. Things you've never done before. You're putting yourself in a position to fail. And it's going to happen because if you don't fail, you're not really an entrepreneur. You are going to fail. But all of those fails, if you continue going forward, they're lessons learned and you can build up on those failures to eventually get to success. But that is one of the reasons that identity ceiling forms is because of homeostasis. Your brain loves consistent. Growth feels dangerous and success feels unfamiliar. Another reason is because of our social environment, our childhood conditioning. You were probably told, don't be too loud, don't stand out too much, stay humble, be realistic, and all of these different things when you were younger. You might still be hearing that today from people. People stop themselves not because they're weak, they stop because they are taught their power is too much. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. And so when we stop, it's oftentimes the ceiling is set because of our conditioning. And we're still repeating those same things we heard in childhood in today, and we're adults. That was so many years ago. We need to recondition this, what we're telling ourselves, the cassette, the radio that's continuously playing in our minds. We need to recondition it. Another reason is your standards. Your standards. This is a big one. The standards you set become the identity you live by. You will never surpass the standards you set for yourself, because your standards, they are the ceiling that your identity is calling you to. Your identity rises to the standards that you set. If you set standards low and you hit them, cool, you didn't do much, right? It's a low ceiling. You didn't accomplish anything. You set your standards on a medium level. Okay, great, you're mediocre. How do you feel? But if you set high standards, you expand your ceiling and you allow yourself to step into expansion, something you never thought possible. Even if you don't hit those high standards, you've heard the saying so many times throughout life, aim for the moon, you land amongst the stars. If you aim for that higher ceiling, you aim for that higher standard, even if you don't hit it, you're in a much better position than if you hit a low one or a mediocre one. I don't want to be mediocre, and I'm sure you don't either. That's why you're listening to this, because you have high standards for yourself, for your life, and for your loved ones. Guess what? Set those high standards and keep those high standards. I have high standards for myself. Sometimes I might beat myself up a little bit too much, but I have high standards for myself and I don't stop going after those standards. That's why I consider myself a growth advocate. I am constantly going after more. If I hit that high standard, then I increase it, right? I hit that goal, I hit that high standard, great. I increase it because I know I'm constantly aiming to get better. I am constantly aiming to level up and be a better version of myself because of those high standards. At the moment you hit your standards, you stop. So you hit that low standard, that mediocre standard, you're done. You stop. That's your ceiling. Every time you set a high standard, your identity evolves with it. Your standards are not goals. I want to make sure that's clear. I kind of maybe mixed you up a little bit, but your standards are not goals. They are identity statements. So I want to ask you right here, what standards are you living by? And if you're not living by any standards, that's a bigger problem. But what standards are you living by? And what results have those standards created for you?
What if shopping could earn you cash instead of just costing you? You've been stuck in the cycle, tap, swipe, spend, watching your paycheck just disappear. But one day, after you stumbled onto this app called Rakuten, you ask yourself, why am I paying full price when I don't have to? But then you think, maybe it's just another gift. Then one of your friends tell you about this app called Rakuten, who makes them money and gives them cash back and rewards for thousands of stores every time they make a purchase that they were made anyway. You try it once, you discover hidden deals, compare prices, and you start winning. Shopping becomes a strategy. Every tap pays you back, and you still get what you want. You share Rakuten with your friends, watch your income grow, and become more financially confident. Download the Rakuten app today and keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket.
What is the real cost of this identity standard thing? Well, you stay in rooms you've outgrown, rooms that you no longer should be in. You play real smaller than your potential. smaller than you're capable of playing. You avoid opportunities meant for your future because I don't really think I deserve that stuff. Let me stay over here, stay small, and stay in my corner, as opposed to going out for this thing that I feel I really should be going for. Let me stay small. Let me stay comfortable. Let me stay over here. You limit your income because it doesn't match your internal identity. You say you want to be a millionaire. You say you want to hit $250,000. You say you want these things, but your identity does not match it. So you sabotage yourself from achieving those things. Pay attention to this. This is important because every single time you sabotage yourself, every single time you shrink, your future pays the price. That future you say you're going after, you're not going to acquire it if you continue to shrink and play small, because your future is paying that price. Look at your life and identify one behavior that is attached to your old identity that you used to do, who you used to be, who you no longer want to be, and stop doing it. Simply stop within the next 24 hours and see where that takes you. See the different thoughts that come to your mind. This is one thing that'll help you to break that identity ceiling. And speaking of which, let me give you some more tips on that, because if you act one level higher than you think you're at, right? 10x, as we've heard before. If you, let's just say 10x your goal, that's going to acquire you to act one level higher than where you think you're at. But it's important. I'm using the word very strategically here. Act. It's not about thinking like your future. It's about acting like your future. If you know you want to read a book a week, guess what you can do today? Pick up a book and start reading a book a week. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. This future identity you have for yourself, what do you do? Who are you? Because if you say, okay, my future self, it goes to the gym at this time, works out at this time, it drinks water and no sugary drinks all the time and so on. Start doing those things today. What is stopping you? Your identity is stopping you. Reframe your identity. Start doing the behaviors that lead to that future that you say you want, because you can. What's stopping you from being that person today? Okay, great. Maybe money, maybe time, but guess what? You'll never get there unless you start doing these things today. As I talked about, another way to break this identity ceiling is to raise your standards. You don't raise your life by raising your goals. You raise your life and your identity by raising your standards. So choose one standard today and honor it for the next 7 days. One standard that is future oriented, that is in alignment with who you say you want to be and the life you want to live. One standard, and follow it for 7 days. This is one thing that'll help you with the next step, honestly, which is to rehearse the new identity, because your brain needs repetition to change. It's not going to happen one time and okay, great, we're good now. This is comfortable to me. It's familiar. No, your brain needs to get familiar with it through repetition. So the identity you practice, it becomes the identity you embody, because now your brain knows it. Now your brain's comfortable with it. We can do this thing. We're good. We got this. Proximity enforces identity expansion. So if you get into rooms that are above your current level, then by default, your identity is going to rise. I used to think in my past, okay, I've done enough, right? I've done enough. I used to hear this all the time. When you're working, okay, I've done enough. I'm good now. I can step away from it and maybe come back to it another day. I can come back to it tomorrow. Guess what? Tomorrow never comes. So don't stop when you're tired. And I've heard Eric Thomas say it this way: don't stop when you're tired, stop when you're done. Because if you stop when you're tired, what do you mean you're tired? I don't understand. Did you not get your sleep last night? Did you not get the fuel and energy you needed throughout the day? I'm confused here. What do you mean you're tired? If this future version of yourself does this thing regularly, so what if you're tired? Push through it until you complete the task. If I raise my identity today, what decisions would I make differently? That's a question I want you to ask yourself, because identity does not rise from hope. Oh, I hope to do this in the future. Oh, I hope to do that, or I'd like to. No, stop with that mediocre language, right? Identity doesn't rise from hope. It rises from repeated actions. I want to make sure I come back to this point because it's so important. The standards you set for yourself. What standards do you have? Again, if you have no standards, you can look at a person's life and see that they have no standards. You can look at a person's life and see that they have low or mediocre standards. And you can look at another person's life and see that they have high standards. There is a difference, and it's all related to the standards that they set, because their standards are what help them to raise that identity and then to know, you know what? I do deserve this thing. How do you know you deserve $250,000 as an example. The only way to know it is to put the standards in place and the habits in place that will bring you to the $250,000. If you keep operating as a $70,000 earner, you're never going to reach this $250,000. You're never going to reach this $1 million. And I'm only using money because it's something that a lot of people can relate to. But you're never going to become this next version of yourself if you don't implement the habits that will get you to that next level. When you implement the habits and you do them regularly, guess what? That higher standard you have for yourself is raising your identity. You're doing the work. And once you're doing the work, you're building trust and confidence with yourself. Your self-esteem goes up. And now you know what? I do deserve this next version. I do deserve these opportunities to step into these rooms, to get on these stages, to speak in front of these corporations and these teams. I do deserve to build this business the way I envision building it. And guess what? I want to take another step back here because in actuality, I've heard it said this way. Your dreams, your goals, your visions were not given to you for any other reason but for the sake of accomplishing those things. So you are the only person who thinks you're not capable. Yes, you might have family, friends, whatever, forget all that. But my point is God gave me visions, God gave me goals, God gave me dreams. And shame on me if I don't raise my standards and raise my level of being to accomplish and achieve those things for the sake of adding to God's kingdom, for the sake of becoming the best version of myself as God calls me to be. So I implore you, listen to this episode again if you need to, and take action on the things we discuss. And one more thing you can ask yourself is, if I raise my standards today, how quickly would my identity start to elevate? If you raise your standards today, how quickly would your identity start to elevate? And how different would your life look in 2 years, in 5 years, in 6 months? If you raise that identity, you raise your standards, and your identity started to elevate. And listen, if you're ready to elevate your identity and break your ceiling, step into the Freedom Hub. The link is below. It's our free Facebook group where entrepreneurs grow into the next version of themselves, to the next version of success that already belongs to them. I know you got value out of this. Like it, please. Subscribe. It helps out the channel. Glad you got some benefit from this. Thank you for stopping by. Kadeem here, and I'll see you in the next one.